For over 7 decades, the AK series has defined the modern assault rifle. The AK-47, Kalashnikov's automatic 1947 model, was adopted in 1949, and its successor, the AK-74, was fielded around 1974. These two designs, one firing 7.62 by 39 millimeters and the other 5.45 by 39 millimeters, share the same basic Kalashnikov mechanism, but each has its own story. Today, these rifles and their many variants are ubiquitous. Roughly 100 million Kalashnikov patterned rifles exist worldwide, with about 3/4 being the AK-47 family. Though they look similar at a glance, we'll see that the 47 and 74 represent different eras of firearms engineering.
In Deckung, los! Period, Zarodino!
In 1943, the Soviet Army was impressed by the German Sturmgewehr 44, the first true assault rifle. Inspired by its intermediate caliber power, the USSR rushed development of their own 7.62 by 39 millimeter cartridge and new rifle. Mikhail Kalashnikov, a Soviet tank commander turned self-taught designer, led the team. By 1947, his prototype was ready for trials, and within 2 years, it replaced older Mosin-Nagant rifles and SKS carbines. Early AK-47s were hefty. The first production models had milled steel receivers and solid wood stocks. Though famously reliable, the stamped steel designs had teething troubles. By 1949, the fixed stock AK was formally adopted into Soviet service. Its simplicity was revolutionary. Fewer parts, a rugged long-stroke gas piston, and generous clearances meant it ran in mud or sand when other rifles jammed. Soldiers found it easy to strip and reassemble in seconds, a true man's rifle. The AK-47 truly changed warfare, giving guerrilla fighters and soldiers alike a reliable equalizer. It served in the jungles of Vietnam, the deserts of the Middle East, and conflicts in Africa and Asia. The AKM kept up into the 70s, but after seeing the US field high-velocity small-caliber rifles, Soviet planners wanted a similar shift. So in the early 1970s, Kalashnikov led a redesign, and by 1974, the AK-74 emerged. The AK-74 kept the AK-47's tough rotating bolt gas system, but with upgrades. By chambering the new 5.45 by 39 millimeter cartridge, the Soviets got higher muzzle velocity and flatter trajectory. The 5.45 round is smaller, but faster than the 7.62. This means an AK-74 with muzzle velocity around 880 to 890 meters per second can reach out past 500 yards compared to roughly 380 yards for the 7.62 by 39 AK. The engineers also revamped the furniture. The AK-74 got a new polymer-reinforced stock with a rubber butt pad, making it lighter and more comfortable. Weight-saving cuts in the stock and handguard trim about half a kilo. A coiled steel spring, the leaf spring, behind the front sight locks the gas tube down tightly during full auto fire, improving reliability at 100+ rounds per minute. And up front, there's a large multi-chambered muzzle brake to counter muzzle rise. These tweaks let gunners fire controlled bursts with less climb. Accessories and variants proliferated on both platforms. For optics, the original AK-47 lacked rails. Optics were rare then, so early scopes were side-mounted on custom brackets. The AK-74 improved this. Many models, AKS-74N and AK-74, can mount grenade launchers. Early Soviets used the single-shot RGS-50. By the 1970s, the GP-25, GP-30 underbarrel launcher was standard on AK-74s and can also attach to AKMs for 40mm VOG grenades. Bayonet ports differ too. The AK-47's blade bayonet, Type 2, doubled as wire cutter, whereas the AK-74's newer spike-like bayonet improved packing and added a scabbard-mounted wire cutter. Suppressors, PBS-4 units, exist for 5.45 rifles, but they're heavy and generate lots of gas and flash. Outside the Soviet Union, the AK-47 spawned countless clones. China's Type 56 is essentially an AKM copy, complete with an integral folding spike bayonet. Eastern Bloc nations made their own copies too. For example, Romania's PAMD.86, service rifle model 1986, export name AIM-74, was a Warsaw Pact 5.45 design with local wood and Bakelite parts. Poland built its own 5.45 rifle, the WZ-88 Tantal, adopted in 1991. Even outside the communist sphere, countries often produce or modify AKs. No patent held it back. In fact, during the Cold War, the AK became Soviet political currency. So when the USSR collapsed, millions of rifles flooded every conflict zone.
In the US, Kalashnikov patterned rifles arrived in waves. The 1989 assault weapons ban halted many imports for a decade. But before and after that, companies imported Romanian and Russian semi-auto AKs, or built clones from parts kits. Today, you'll see Romanian-made Wasar or Kugir-built rifle kits, Kalashnikov USA's Norinco-based rifles, like the AKM patterned Defender, and domestic builds by small manufacturers. Magazine wells on these semi-auto clones are often slightly modified for civilian compliance, but they functionally mirror the originals. Essentially, any part you can think of, furniture sets, barrels, receivers, is offered for US legal AKs by the aftermarket.
The battle between these two rifles extended to conflicts around the globe. In the 1980s Soviet-Afghan War, Soviet forces carried AK-74s, while Mujahideen often had older 7.62 rifles captured or supplied by allies. In Chechnya and other post-Soviet wars, Russian troops used AK-74Ms, the modernized AK-74 with black polymer furniture, and insurgents often AKMs or SKSs. Today, in Ukraine, both rifles appear on both sides. Ukraine has AK-74 variants modernized with pick rails, while Russian proxies use whatever AKs they seize or import. In countless African and Middle Eastern conflicts, you'll see a mix of AK-47 types and AK-74s, depending on when weapons arrived and what was in stock.
Over time, doctrine shifted around these rifles. The Soviets originally thought 5.45 would improve hit probability and reduce recoil, similar to how NATO saw 5.56. In practice, both Kalashnikov designs serve as general infantry rifles. Western armies valued the same traits, which is why you find AK-patterned rifles in nearly every irregular army. Graphic overlays might help here. Imagine crosshair icons dropping on a human silhouette at various ranges. The AK-74's zero is set for 400 meters, meaning any torso at that range or closer can be engaged by simply aiming center.
Magazines have changed. New polymer and translucent polymer mags by Bulgarian Arsenal for 7.62 models, and ribbed polymer mags for 5.45 with improved followers. In graphics and slow motion, we can highlight key differences.
For example, show a tracer round exiting the muzzle and overlay the relative flash/smoke with and without the brakes. Or compare magazine feeds. One scene of the curvy 7.62 mag versus the straight 5.45 mag. During rapid fire, a split screen could show recoil angle over time for each. Diagrams can also overlay internal parts, the AK's simple two-part receiver, the spring suspension, and we could ghost in bullets yawing in tissue to illustrate wound ballistics differences.
Let's also consider combat doctrine. The AK-47 7.62 round did well in dense cover. It punched through walls or foliage. The AK-74's 5.45 tumble causes severe wounds to exposed targets, making it very effective in open terrain and urban battle at medium ranges. Storytelling here. Show a Mujahideen fighter dodging 5.45 fire versus one taking 7.62 rounds. In the end, each rifle fit its context. The AK-47 earned a fearsome reputation by equalizing firepower globally, and the AK-74 extended that legacy into modern warfare.
By the Cold War's end, the AK-47 and AK-74 rifle families were so widespread that their parts became standardized globally. Every major country of the Warsaw Pact was expected to adopt 5.45 in the 1970s. Romania and East Germany did, with their own flair. The US noted Soviet allied nations training on both Kalashnikov and NATO-style rifles, a lesson in interoperability. Meanwhile, insurgents worldwide relied on whichever AK variant they could get, creating a Kalashnikov ecosystem where captured AK-47 ammo might feed an AK-74 and vice versa, if logistics allowed. Today's AK-47s and AK-74s are products of their history. Newer AKs, like the AK-12, or Ukraine's Fort series, or civilian AR kits, borrow from both. But the core bullet into a 5.45 by 39 bullet and show the yaw in gel. We could graph loaded combat loads from NATO M193 5.56 versus Soviet 7N10 5.45 and 7.62 by 39 to emphasize similarities. This level of detail, ballistic tables, sectional wound gels, hardware photos of bayonets and heat blur backgrounds will hook gun geeks. But always loop back to the human story. Insurgents, conscript soldiers, even the shooter resetting the AK's dust cover as told through voiceover. In closing, both rifles remain revered tools of war. The AK-47 and its modern AKM symbolizes the guerrilla's rifle, famously reliable, feared, rugged. The AK-74 is its cooler counterpart, refined for the modern battlefield, with less recoil and higher velocity. In essence, comparing them is comparing eras and doctrines, but each inherits the core philosophy: simplicity and durability above all. As one firearms historian put it, the AK was designed so even a Boy Scout could rebuild it, and it worked. For U.S. audiences, note that the AK story also reached home. During the 1990s, Romanian-made and imported AKs flooded American gun shows until 1994's ban, and they've been part of the NFA market ever since. Many companies, Arsenal, Century, Krebs, etc., built domestic AKs. This is why you might see a sporting AK-47 or AK-74 in the U.S., often on display in shooting galleries or even museums. Our media often portray them from Hollywood's perspective. Here, we give the real history and nuance. Sources. We've drawn on firearms history and official sources for accuracy. The AK-47 and AK-74's official specifications, development history, and variants are documented in military archives and publications. Our comparison of ballistics and design comes from ballistics tables and expert analyses. Global usage and license production of AKs is well known, 100 million made worldwide. Citations have been provided for key facts throughout. The visuals are creative interpretations meant to illustrate these points. This was an ambitious deep dive into two of history's most iconic rifles.